intends to embark on a radical programme of land reform. Scotland's land must be an asset that benefits the many, not the few.
Radical to me means to the grassroots, somewhere where it hasn't been before, addressing the root of the problem.
When these land agents really came, they would just arrive in, they would say they'd done a study of your farm, and in some cases they would ask for double the rent.
We're losing our homes, our business, and our whole lives really, because we'll have to leave this area.
Vast, stunning, private. Half of Scotland's countryside is owned by fewer than 500 people. Nicola Sturgeon promises a radical new approach to who owns Scotland. The length and breadth of the country, farmers and SNP supporters say the party's running scared. That little will change under their land reform proposals. We've come to Islay off the west coast, a land of whisky, birdwatching, tourism, but also of young people and tenant farmers leaving a landscape still made up of huge private estates.
It's a rural clearance going on in this part of Islay. These were all individual farms, and these are all empty now. So that's hit the population here,
right.
You know.
Tony Rosger is busy building his own house. He's lucky. He managed to buy his farm from Lord Margadale, who owns 55,000 acres here.
I've got guys I went to school with that are still living with their parents. There's no houses here, and that is because we can't get land to build houses on.
He says these vast estates want farmers on short, insecure leases to create turnover and allow them to increase rents or sell off farmhouses as holiday homes, yet maximise income from subsidies. The SNP government will impose tax rates on hunting estates and give communities the right to buy land in some circumstances, but it won't give tenant farmers an absolute right to buy or cap how much land an individual or company can own. Craig Archibald has a secure tenancy, diversifying alongside livestock on Islay into high-quality oysters for the restaurants of the capital, where Edinburgh's politicians dine, people who could radically change Craig's life. Because right now, during the rent review every 3 years, the landlord can, in theory, ask for whatever rent increases he wants.
They're just wanting higher returns, and if they want higher returns, they end up with less farmers, and less farmers can decimate a community, because you need a core of people that feed the schools, that are always there, that bring a community together.
Craig Archibald's landlord is Lord Margadale, and Lord Margadale's estate manager, Willie Ingalls, is the man who goes out to tenant farmers to negotiate their rent.
Generally, if you're renting the land, the figure of rent normally goes up roughly in line with inflation.
Have you ever put rents up more than that?
Yes, of course I have.
So,
yes.
So
yes.
it doesn't always happen, does it?
No, because but every rent that I've put up so far has been in agreement with a farmer. Never once have I threatened to kick somebody off the land, because I can't do that.
Across Scotland, not just here in the islands, something very interesting politically is beginning to unfold. Amongst the SNP's own core support, many are now saying that the party had a historic opportunity to do something radical to change these problems and make them part of history. Instead, they say the party is backtracking. The SNP is bottling it.
Ballygrant Inn on Islay, Whisky Bar of the Year. SNP supporters here say their own party is throwing away the chance to be radical.
The land reform bill has not delivered that for me. That hasn't happened. They've copped out. I'm still an SNP supporter, and I've still faith in them.
Groups like ourselves need to be prodding the SNP and say, get radical, and when they are radical, get more radical.
Locals sent us up the road to Bunnahabhain Distillery, not for the whisky, but for the site. a ghost village. Almost all of the residents gone. In the 80s, the distillery shut for a while. People left. Their homes fell into disrepair. George is one of the last residents.
There was a school, there was a post office, there was a shop. The village is a lot quieter. No children. It used to be thriving with children, hence the school.
Urban decay in one of the most beautiful landscapes in the world. One wealthy foreign owner, one dead village, on an island where young people struggle to find housing.
It sets up a...
And the message from big landowners to the SNP, we don't need any bill at all.
Scotland is often cited as being extremely beautiful. There are lovely castles, houses, great landscape. All of this has been provided by individuals who've cherished the land that they own and looked after it. And I feel very strongly, and the family that I work for also feel very strongly, that they have this long-term interest right at the heart of what they do.
And it sounds like a way of saying you don't see any need for a bill.
That's exactly what it means.
If you think this is just about the Highlands and Islands, think again. We're heading east, passing Edinburgh, into the big arable farms of East Lothian. For 22 years, Andrew Stoddart has farmed 900 acres here as a tenant. He's raised the family here and reads about how tenant farmers were evicted from this very spot 150 years ago.
We have to be gone from here at the end of November, and any land reform bill has missed us. We've fallen through the cracks.
He may have paid for and built a vast storage barn, drained the land, improved it, worked it, but his lease is up and he's been told to go next month, and nothing in the proposed bill would alter that.
The landlord has the right to destroy this business completely, just on a whim, basically. You know, I've got 3 children at the local school. My tractor driver has 4 children in the same school. So that's 7 kids who are all being, you know, pulled out of their whole existence.
And they've got to know about this, obviously, by now. What do they say to you? You know, what do they say? What's going to happen, Dad?
The landlord said they wish to have a greater involvement in running the farm and have a legally binding agreement with Mr. Stoddart to end the tenancy on the 28th of November. For their part, the SNP say this is a significant step forward.
What this bill is seeking to do is to, encourage and support responsible and diverse land ownership. It's about increasing transparency around and information around land in Scotland. It's about, ensuring that our communities have a say in how land in their area is used. And it's also about addressing, the very real issues around equality, social justice and fairness that are connected to the ownership of, access to and use of land in Scotland.
Forget the Highlands and Islands, forget the mainland farms. It is urban as well. 750,000 acres in Scotland are owned in secret offshore accounts. Glens, lochs, but also plots like this one on the Edinburgh waterfront.
10 years ago it was sold to property developers. They lost out in the financial crash. It was sold to a company for £3 million to build homes. They went bankrupt, and then it was sold to a company called Sapphire Properties Limited, who are in the British Virgin Islands. Right. So although we know it's owned by Sapphire Properties, we've absolutely no idea who they are.
A proposal to force companies who own land to be registered in the EU so we know who they are has been welcomed by the land expert Andy Whiteman. But again, it's not in the bill.
Well, it matters for 2 principal reasons. One, I think it's important to know who is in control of land in your country. And the second reason it matters is because of issues to do with criminality and tax and money laundering, because a lot of property is held offshore principally to launder money or to avoid tax. And therefore, if we can curtail that, if we can prevent that happening, we're going to make a better fist of stopping money laundering and tax avoidance and criminal activities.
The Scottish Government told us companies would simply ignore and get round this with front organisations. Evicted tenant farmers, secret foreign landowners, vast tracts of Scotland owned by a few hundred rich individuals. Fundamental issues the SNP was expected to change. There's little sign that they will. Alex Thompson, Channel 4 News, Islay.